Way down the route here with Krush House, episode number 1. We're going to be with you every single week from now on. Baseball season, NBA playoffs. Then, of course, starting in this fall, we've got NFL football and college football. You're going to love this show if you're a sports gambler. We've got sports content. We've got information. We got education. We got entertainment. We've got empowerment. And we've got winning picks. We've got advice for sports gamblers you're not going to find on any other show, any other podcast in the world. It's all here, right on Krush House, sponsored by Vegas Winners, the world's best sports handicapping website, because winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. We got the best team of sports handicapping experts in the world at vegaswinners.com. Let me introduce my co-hosts and my partners in crime, Angelica Bridges and Frank Nicotero. Angelica from Baywatch fame. Say hi to everybody.
Hey everybody, it's Angelica Bridges, and yeah, maybe some of you might recognize me from a little show back in the day called Baywatch. What the heck, okay? But my forte on this show is going to be about breaking it down, just breaking down sports betting and the terminology, and just keeping it simple for everybody. And of course, bringing on some celebrity guests each week to get a little insight and behind the scenes on what's really going on out there and in the world of sports. And speaking of celebrities, we have our own celebrity on the panel here, and that's Frank Nicotero. Frank?
I was wondering if I was going to be considered a celebrity. I'm sure everyone remembers me from my role as pharmacy customer number 2 in The Wishmaster. Let me do my whole role for you. Here we go. Hey, buddy, are you okay? There you go. That's where you know me from, America. I'm the guy that is the guy you want to have a beer with and watch a game. I'm going to be a smartass. I'm going to crack jokes, but I'm also a knowledgeable joker, all right? I have been betting and gambling since I was in grade school. I continue to bet. I am watching a game on a television right here. It's the Pirates in Detroit. They're tied. That's okay. Long way to go. So I'm going to be here and also teach about some of the terms, what a parlay is, what a tease is, all the while having a good time.
So you're the kind of the resident comedian and degenerate gambler. Is that the good description?
You know what? I could be. Why don't we just call me the degenerate comedian? How about that? We'll hybrid it. That'll be me. That'll be my next stand-up album, The Degenerate Comedian.
All the years that I did this, when it was illegal in 49 states, only legal in Las Vegas, Nevada, all those years, all my customers were men. This was 100% male business. Now that it's legal all over the country, I believe women are all going to get involved in sports betting. You know, women don't bet with bookmakers. They're all going to bet now with, Caesars and Wynn and MGM. All of a sudden, women are going to bet like crazy, and you're going to be the one who shows them how to do it. And as Steve Jobs of Apple used to say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple for everybody. That's your role.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what's so funny is that you said that it was illegal in 49 states when you started this. What in the heck kept you going? What kept you going if it's, 1 or 2 states being legal? What kept you going?
Bookmakers. The average man never cared. All those years. I started this business in 1985. So it didn't matter if it was legal. Anybody could find a bookmaker. They were at the bar. They were at the office, at the workplace. Everybody had a bookmaker at the gym. You could always find a bookmaker at the gym or at the nightclub or at the strip club. Any of them. There's always a bookmaker. So those days are gone. Now you could just walk into a Caesars casino and bet on sports. Not in Vegas. Anywhere it's legal in 28 states. So DraftKings, FanDuel, they've all got retail establishments where you can walk in and bet. Horse race tracks, walk in and bet on sports. It's all changed. So I think now it'll be acceptable to women and average amateur gamblers who are afraid to bet illegally with a bookmaker. Now they're going to do it legally. So now it's open to everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun. Right, Frank?
I cannot agree more. And I'll tell you what, like at the Funny Bone, the comedy club in Pittsburgh where I started, the guy who delivered the produce was the bookmaker that we would place our bets through. All his comics were making peanuts, but we'd make bets through him, and more than not, we'd usually win. But, an interesting analogy about sports betting that I always feel is, it used to be in the back room and it was just men. Now it's like strip joints. And let me explain where I'm going with this. It used to be just a male thing to go see strippers, but when you see women at a Chippendale show, they go nuts. And that's what gambling has become. I went to a Super Bowl party, and I swear to God, all the guys who had money on the game are just sitting like this, and the women are screaming bloody murder at the television. It's great. It makes it more exciting. The guys aren't the only ones who feel like degenerates if you lose on the coin toss, but it's exactly what it is now, and everyone does it, and everyone has a blast on it, or doing it. And the thing is on today's show, we have so much stuff. I have some picks. I want to talk about baseball. I want to talk about the Oscars this weekend. I even got a basketball pick. We're going to have a lot of fun, educate you, and we're going to give you some winners, vegaswinners.com. Right, Wayne? This is what we're going to do.
But Frank, I don't know how to break this to you. If you bet on the coin toss, you are a degenerate. There's no way around it. You're a freaking degenerate if you bet on the coin toss. We'll be back in a second. When we come back, an interview with Pete Rose, not only one of the greatest baseball players in history, not only probably the greatest hitter, pure hitter in the history of Major League Baseball, not only one of the great athletes of all time, but a guy who knows a lot about sports gambling because he got himself banned for life from baseball, from coaching, playing baseball, coaching baseball, and also being in the Hall of Fame. No one deserves it more than Pete Rose, but he can't get in because of baseball betting. We'll be right back. And a reminder, betting tips and betting advice is all to come from Wayne and Frank. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Wayne Alaroot for Krush House. You know, one of the things we do every week is there's going to be a little give and take back and forth, and it'll be interesting and entertaining and empowering and educating between Frank and I, talking sports gambling and sports news and sports controversies, all the above. I think it'll be great, and you'll enjoy it. So here we've got Frank. Welcome to this segment, and let's have a little fun. Let's start with the NFL draft, because do you expect any fireworks this year? I expect this to be filled with more trades probably than any year in recent history. It just seems like it's setting itself up for a lot of teams that are going to trade out and trade in to the first round. What do you think?
I couldn't agree with you more. It just seems like there's so many rumors that you just keep reading about and hearing about. There's information coming out about players that we didn't hear, like Justin Fields, super talented quarterback from Ohio State, now announcing that he's been managing epilepsy. So that's got to affect his stock draft. I mean, the draft for me really doesn't start until pick 23 with the Steelers, but let's talk about the whole draft, I guess. But they got to take Najee. They got to take Najee Harris from Alabama. We need a running back. Honestly, Franco Harris right now, I could bring him out of retirement, and he would be a better running back than we had last year. The room was horrible. Our running back room was the worst. But the quarterbacks are always going to get all the headlines. I mean, you got Mac Jones, who, Mac Jones, all of a sudden, he wins the national championship and had an amazing season. But now, a few months ago, he was like low end, mid to late round, first round pick. Now they're talking about, the Niners jumping up and taking him at 3.
They traded up for him to take him at number 3. Then it became Justin Fields at number 3. Then some said Trey Lance at number 3. My guess is it's been Mac Jones all along. And he's not, forget about lousy athlete. He's not a superstar athlete, but he's the most efficient passer in all of college football. He'll be great in the San Francisco system. Great in that system.
And how does poor Jimmy Garoppolo feel about all this? He was there, he signs a big deal, and now all of a sudden, one of 3 or 4 people are going to take his job. And Mac Jones, yeah, he might not be the best athlete, but did you ever see the picture of Tom Brady on his draft day without his shirt? If we can slide that in right now, it would be amazing. He looks like me without his shirt now, and I'm way older than he was on draft day. But look, Mac Jones is a winner. He comes out of Nick Saban's offense, he knows how to win games. I mean, Joe Burrow, who went number 1 overall, where was he at the beginning of last season on draft board? So I think the Niners must know something. They must want Mac Jones badly.
Baseball handicapping. I had my staff compile some great ideas to give everybody at home some tips on how to handicap baseball. But before we do that, I know you had some actual picks for the weekend, Frank, and I think people will want to hear how you came up with these picks and what the picks are. So let's start with you. The floor goes to you first.
Well, I'm looking at series prices. Now, a series price is, if it's a 3-game series, you're betting on what team you think is going to win 2 out of 3. Now, the Dodgers and Padres are playing 4 in Chavez Ravine this week, and you're only betting on the first 3 games. So right now, this series is the Dodgers are minus 230 to win 2 out of 3 of the first games. Now, that means you have to wager $230 to win $100, right? So you're like, wow, that seems like a risky bet. Well, I don't think it's a risky bet. I mean, the Padres, they lost 2 out of 4 to my pathetic Padres. Then the Dodgers took 2 out of 3. I mean, the Mookie Betts catch saved it. That was the most amazing game of the year. I mean, this is like October baseball with the Dodgers and Padres. And then the Padres went home or stayed home, and they got swept by the Brewers. So they're reeling right now. They got some key injuries. Tatis still with the shoulder. Machado's got back issues. Will Myers got a knee issue. The Dodgers are at home. This is a 4-game series. This is where I think put their foot on the throat of the media wanting to make this a big deal about the Padres and Dodgers are going to be going back and forth. So you think about who's pitching tonight. The first game you got Walker Buehler. Then you got Kershaw, Bauer, and May. That is an unbelievable foursome. Now, yes, the Padres have Weathers going tonight, who made his first major league start against the Dodgers last Friday and lost. He pitched well. But then they have Darvish, Snell, and Musgrove on Sunday. So we're just looking at the first 3 games. And the only game that really scares me is Musgrove because the Dodgers didn't see him in the first series. So we're only going for the first 3 games. I like the Dodgers. I think they're going to win 2 out of 3. They're a superior team. San Diego's very good, but it's not their time yet. They got too many people, too many guys with aches and injuries. So I take the Dodgers series price. I really feel strongly about that.
The reason I love sports gambling, if I go out to dinner with my lovely fiance and then go to a show in Vegas, like a concert afterwards, it's going to run me $300, $400, $500. And you're entertained and you had a great meal. And when it's over, you spent $500. That's it. That's the story, right? Sports gambling is the only form of entertainment in the world. When it's over, if you bet $500 on the game, you might have spent the same $500 as me going out to dinner and a show, but you might also get paid $500 if you win.
Yeah, but P.F. Chang's and Penn and Teller's like $150. That's a way cheaper date for me, but I would rather wager.
I go to much more expensive restaurants in Vegas, but you're a comedian and I'm a businessman. See, that's the difference. Yeah, exactly. They don't pay comedians the same amount. Now, here's the deal. I've been picking football for 35 years, and I think my record matches up against anyone in the world. I would say I'm one of the best 5 or 6 in the world at picking football. I also pick March Madness and NCAA basketball, but I'm not a baseball handicapper. I've left that to my staff for the last 35 years. I've got 5 or 6 guys who are as good at it as anybody in the world, and I asked them to give me a little advice for all of you on how they pick winners for Wayne Allen Root. And so I just wanted to read you a couple of the trends they gave me. First of all, take the hot teams. Baseball's a game of winning streaks and losing streaks. So they're always looking for moments where a hot team is less than a 150 favorite. And same thing with a losing team. If a team's on a losing streak, a lot of bettors are betting that tonight will be the first time they win in 4 games, 5 games. My guys say no. Once you've lost 3 or 4, you might just as well lose 5 or 6. And we're going against those teams. Bad teams on a winning streak. They're short favorite. They like to take teams like that. Take advantage of these for some wins versus bad teams and extra profit if they're a worthy underdog. Just a few little hints they gave me. Visitors traveling the 2nd home series in a row. Very rested for the home team. Take the home team. Those are the kind of trends my guys look at every single day. They've got computer systems, hundreds of them, to analyze every game from 100 different angles. Right-handed pitchers, left-handed pitchers, home, away, weather, you name it, all added together in a kind of a toxic stew to come up with a big winner in Major League Baseball. So those are kind of the tips that are, I think, important for all of you out there gambling to watch for in Major League Baseball. Thank you, Frank. Wayne Allen Root, Krush House. We'll be right back. All right, Wayne Allen Root with Krush House and my great cast of partners in crime. You've met Frank, you've met Angelica. We've got a new one to introduce you to. First, I want to mention the sponsor of the show. It's VegasWinners.com. Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Let's introduce you to one of our new key cast members. I call her Mrs. Prime Time. It's very important to us. Deb Whitkiss, who's the ultimate fan, and we're going to have her on location every week from different sporting events and sports locales all over the United States, even sports bars, stadiums, golfing events, tennis events. We're going to have her all over the country. She's our hostess with the mostest on the spot at fun events. Deb, welcome to the show and welcome to the team.
Hey guys, thank you so much. I cannot wait to get started. I'm going to be out and about all in the sports world, at the stadiums, in the arenas, tailgates, parties, interviewing fans, players, coaches, anyone who's clutch in the sports and the sports betting world. So I can't wait.
Well, and I know, we did an interview with Pete Rose, and it's coming up next. And I know, Deb, you are the biggest Pete Rose fan. Tell us about where you were on location for our Pete Rose interview.
So I was actually at opening day of the Philadelphia Phillies versus the Atlanta Braves. Philadelphia Phillies beat the Braves in extra innings. It was a really good game. And I actually spoke with a bunch of fans and did some trivia. Take a look. Pete Rose is a legend here in Philadelphia. So for today's home opener against the Atlanta Braves, I want to see just how much the fans know about the man himself.
Pete Rose's full name is Peter Michael Rose.
I'm gonna say false.
False. Peter Edward Rose. Pete Rose's birthday is April 14th, 1941.
True.
Pete Rose holds the MLB record for most career hits at 3,786.
Let's say no.
False. 4,256. Pete Rose has 3 World Series titles to his name.
I'll go with false.
It's true.
Oh.
Pete Rose played outfield for 8 seasons.
Absolutely.
Yep.
True.
Pete is the only player in MLB history to play more than 500 games at 5 different positions.
False.
True. First base, second base, third base, left field, and right field. Pete holds the MLB record for most singles at 3,315.
Right.
Pete Rose was on the National League All-Star team 15 times between 1965 and 1985.
True.
That is false.
17 times. Pete Rose said the quote, "I'd walk through hell in a gasoline suit to play baseball."
Yay! We have a winner!
Great job, Deb. Great job. And I know you're a big fan of Pete Rose. And what accomplishments. This guy's amazing. Angelica, Deb, give us some thoughts on what your favorite accomplishment is of Pete Rose. Every one of us probably has one that is just amazing to us. For me, I think it's the longevity, right? Forget about the 4,000 hits. It's lasting all those seasons, all those decades in Major League Baseball and playing to the age of 45. He is amazing. Nobody did that in those days. Amazing.
And I love that he was the only player to play 500 games at 5 different positions. What an accomplishment.
Amazing. And the fact that he's a switch hitter, and he would just adjust himself depending on the pitcher.
Enough of the stories and the accomplishments of the legendary Pete Rose. It's time to meet him, the man himself, up close and personal. Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose. Pete, you're a baseball legend. Let's talk about your record-setting career.
Hey, Wayne. Of course, the number of winning games I played in was 1,972, which is really a credit to all the great teammates that I had over the years. I actually played with 12 Hall of Fame players at one time or another. And it was always fun to play the game. That's why I was able to play till I was 45 years old. But don't forget, the last couple years I played, I was also a player manager.
So I'm so curious, growing up, Where did you get your inspiration from?
I grew up in the 40s and 50s. And when I was growing up, my father was an athlete. He was a football player, basketball player, baseball player. And consequently, everywhere he's going to play, I'm in the front seat going to the games. And he always corrected me fundamentally. He never yelled at me in front of my peers when I was a little leaguer. He always corrected me on the way home. And I just think that's something missing in the game of baseball today.
How do you think the game of baseball's changed since you played?
There's a lot of players that aren't fundamentally sound. There's a lot of bad teams. There's some good teams, no question about it. There's some real good athletes today. But I don't look at that because I played against Musial, Mays, Aaron, Clemente. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, the greatest baseball player in the history of baseball, without a question, now and 100 years from now, is a guy named George Herman Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth did something that Michael Jordan couldn't do, Wayne Gretzky couldn't do, Tom Brady couldn't do. Babe Ruth, by going into this town or that town in the 20s, sold out every seat at the place and enabled all these teams to grow.
Pete, what would have you said to Babe Ruth if you ever did have the chance to meet him? You mentioned you thought he was the greatest player ever. I agree.
I was nervous talking to Babe Ruth's daughter. I can't imagine if I ever had the opportunity to talking to Babe Ruth, especially when I was a player. I mean, it was enough to talk to guys like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, who we lost a couple of weeks ago, and Stan Musial. I mean, those are great players. Roberto Clemente from the Spanish side, Puerto Rican. So I had the honor of playing against so many good players, and I had the honor of playing with so many great players. The Morgans, the Benches, the Perezes, the Seavers, the Carltons, the Schmidts, you know, the Andre Dawson, the Tim Raines, the Gary Carters, Frank Robinson. Those are all my teammates. And when you're around people like that, it's fun to play the game. Okay, it's fun to go to the ballpark no matter what the situation is. We didn't win every year, but we won a lot of times just by 1,972 wins. I mean, that's 250 more wins than the guy at second. Think about that. That's over a season and a half more wins than the guy at second on that list.
Pete, how did you last so long in Major League Baseball? You played to the age of 45.
I don't think as an athlete you ever get old unless you think you're old. It's just like I watch TV every day and they're talking about these guys 32 and 33, whether they're over the hill. I mean, I was in my prime at 37. I led the league in hits when I was 40.
Wow.
And if you have that mentality and you know why you're playing and you're having fun, I mean, I believe the reason I played so long, Wayne, is because I had such great teammates and it was fun for me to go to the ballpark. I don't give a damn how much money you make. If it's not fun to go to the ballpark, you're going to get old real quick. You're going to get old real quick. If it's not fun going to the ballpark, going through all the stuff that you have to go through to stay ready, that was all. Practicing was fun for me. Okay, I couldn't wait to get to the ballpark. I couldn't wait to get to spring training. Okay, my life was boring other than when I played baseball or when I was going to the baseball game. And that's just the way I lived my whole life. And it was just like when I was going to the games with my father all the time. That's the same thing as me going to the ballpark and taking my son with me. It was the same thing.
Pete, do you think you'll make it to the Hall of Fame in your lifetime?
I don't think, this is being honest with you, and I'm kind of over that because I've been suspended since 1989. Okay, so what I'm saying is I don't go to bed every night and pray that I go to the Hall of Fame. I pray that I get up tomorrow morning. But I don't think they'll ever give me a shot until I die. And that's fine. That's just the situation we're in. Okay? And I'm not worried about that because the Hall of Fame, going to the Hall of Fame, is for your family and your fans. Okay? I know what kind of player I was, and all the guys in the Hall of Fame know what kind of player I was. And all the people who run baseball know what kind of player I was. I went out of my way for 24 years to try to save the game of baseball by playing it the way you're supposed to play it. Okay? I always worried about the fans. I always thought about the fans. Because what the hell is the difference? Why would you want to play a baseball game with no fans in the stands? It's no fun. I want to play in front of 50,000 people. That's why I always enjoyed playing at Dodger Stadium. every time we played at Dodger Stadium, there was 52,400 people at the ballpark.
Okay, Pete. It took a lot of courage to write what you did. Tell us about your book, My Prison Without Bars.
If you want to know the truth, Angelica, this book was almost like a love story between me and my dad. I'm gonna tell you, I am so lucky to have the kind of dad that I had. You know, but I grew up in a time. I grew up in a time when fathers and sons were closer than they are a lot today, because there's so much more going on with kids today. But everywhere my dad went, I was his shadow. I was with him. Okay? And he took me to every practice, whether it was baseball, basketball, football. When I went to the minor leagues, he wrote me once a week, and he ended up the letter every week by saying, "Love, Dad, keep hustling."
All right, Wayne Allen Root for Krush House. It's been a great week, a great first podcast. Did we get a lot of information in a short period of time? You are an educated sports gambler now. For Frank, for Angelica, for Deb, for the whole crew here at Krush House, we'll be back next week. NFL Draft coming up. NBA playoffs coming up. More Major League Baseball coming up. NHL Game of the Week coming up. Before you know it, it'll be time for the NFL. It's all coming every single week at Krush House. Have we got some energy for you? You're darn right we do. See you next week. God bless. Bye-bye.